If you're new to our channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.
Coffee grounds are a free resource that we can use to enrich our garden's nutrient availability.
Yeah. You know what you don't use to increase your garden's nutrient availability?
What's that?
Rhubarb.
Okay. So you can get coffee grounds for free. And there's a variety of different sources. There's national chains of coffee shops where you can go in and ask, and they've got a program where they'll give you a bag of used coffee grounds.
Yeah, but there's local too.
Yes, that's what we encourage. Go to your local coffee shop, call them first.
And if you're not sure, call them first, because if you just show up with a bucket and ask for coffee grounds, they might be like, okay, no. So you definitely want to call ahead and say, hey, I need coffee grounds for my garden. If I bring you a bucket, can you just hook me up?
We've never had a no.
We've never had a no, because they're putting those coffee grounds typically into
a dumpster.
The dumpster. Yeah. So they're not going to say no to giving them to somebody that's going to use them.
So, and usually in a day it's picked up and they're very, thank you. And there's always, when we go, there's 3 or 4 other buckets there.
A lot of times.
And what they'll do is, first let's talk about why we want to add them to
and sometimes you need to have the lid, so find out ahead of time, because, I don't even know where our lids are for our 5-gallon buckets.
But some do require, because that's just their requirement. So why do we add coffee grounds to our garden?
Well, they add nitrogen. They're about, 2% nitrogen by volume, so they add nitrogen to your soil. They also help attract worms. So if you're low on worms, the worms are very vital to your soil.
We have to work the coffee grounds in.
Okay, so first we're going to talk about why. So you want to add the coffee grounds to the nitrogen. They feed the worms. They're good organic matter. They just like we talked about in the first part, they build your soil. That's what coffee grounds do. And you can work the filters in as well. That's just another composty.
And the coffee shop's not going to separate the filters and the coffee grounds. It's all going to go in one bucket.
No, so
it's fine.
So don't be alarmed. So when you add them, you can add them in basically any time of year, but spring is good, fall is good. In the past, we've added them in the fall and then mix them in and then put our leaves on top. That's a good way to add them in. So what you want to do is you definitely do want to mix them in. You don't have to till them in. You can just take your garden fork or your spade and just mix them in.
A couple inches, because that 2% nitrogen will evaporate into the atmosphere, and you'll lose that benefit if we just broadcast them on top of the ground. And negatively, the second negative thing about it is if we just pour the coffee grounds on the top of the soil, it creates a crust and prevents water from permeating down into the soil. So it's a hard crust or a hard mulch. We don't want that in our garden. So we want to work them in. And we can also, by volume, people say, well, how many coffee grounds, how many pounds, how much do I put where? Here's what we do. 5-gallon bucket, 20 square feet, and work it in. You're going to be fine. The worms and microbial life and the fungi and all of that will start breaking it down. So you don't want to add tonnage to an area. But a 5-gallon bucket, 20 square feet, that works well for us.
No, I know a lot of people would be concerned about the acid, the acidity, because coffee is a higher acid component, plant, whatever you want to call it, beverage. Bean. But the acid gets brewed out. So basically the coffee drinker consumes the acid, and the garden doesn't consume that. So
and what little acidity may still be in that coffee ground, the soil has a natural, it's called buffering capacity, where it rejects a certain amount of toxicity is not the correct word for this, but it rejects a certain amount of...
It's kind of like our liver. Our liver processes things that are good and bad, and the soil kind of does that too. The buffering capacity does that too. Now, if you drink tea, you can definitely add your tea grounds. With your tea bags, you would want to remove if you use like the pre-made tea bags, you'd want to remove the little staple thing.
You could.
Otherwise,
it's a staple.
Right. But ideally, that's what you want to do. Yeah. Otherwise, if you just drink like loose leaf tea like I do, and I use either the little cup or I use the other bags, you can just toss that in there. Depending on your tea, whatever is in it, whatnot, it's going to add different things to your soil, but if you're a tea drinker, that's definitely something to consider.
So you can add all coffee grounds you can add year-round. You can also add them to your compost pile. Coffee grounds are considered a green item when going into your coffee or your compost pile. The book says, the internet says, you need to have 50% green items and 50% brown items in your compost pile in order for the compost to break down equally and efficiently and timely. You don't have to have that exact ratio. If you have more than one or less than one, it still will break down. You may not get the internal heat process, but if you don't have a lot of greens, like some people in the fall or in the winter, they'll do winter composting. They'll add their brown scraps, shredded paper, shredded leaves, whatever the case is, and they'll use that coffee grounds as a green nitrogen or the green particles in that compost pile in order to heat the pile up correctly.
And that's something to think about if you're doing that heat composting or that heat brown and green composting balance, that even though coffee grounds are brown, they're considered a green because of the nitrogen that they have in them.
You leave a bucket of coffee grounds set for a couple of days and stick your hand down in it. It starts to get a little warm.
Yeah.
So we want to do that. Now, you can also trench compost these things, and that meaning if between your rows of tomatoes you dig a trench and you can bury the coffee grounds there, heal them up, and then let them break down, and then plant in that row the next year. You can also do the trench composting that way with coffee grounds, or your kitchen scraps. And we're kind of getting away from the coffee grounds, but it kind of all ties together with that situation.
But I think the takeaway here is that you don't have to. Do we have a caller?
Yep. Let's go to the IV Organics hotline caller. You are on the air. Hello, caller.
Morning.
Good morning.
Well, good morning, plant people. How are you doing this morning?
We are doing well. We thank you for giving us a call.
You're welcome. I have a question.
Yes.
If I wanted to grow, for example, parsley, basil, or oregano inside my home, is that possible? Would you recommend it okay to grow parsley, basil, or oregano?
Oregano?
Are those herbs inside? Yes, sir. Inside your home, regardless of being outside or anything.
You can grow them in your home. We grow in our kitchen window. We grow all of those things. Basil. Well, we don't grow parsley, but we grow basil, and we have grown oregano. And you just take like a little hanging basket. It doesn't have to be very deep. Maybe like 6 to 8 inches deep. And a little hanging basket or a little pot, put some soil in there, and you can plant your seeds, and you can grow in your kitchen or a window or wherever you have space.
South-facing window?
South-facing window is good, or even an east or west-facing window, just so that a north-facing window would not be ideal, though.
Yeah, herbs are a low-light requirement or tolerable plant, and you can be very successful at growing herbs inside without the requirements of grow lights in your kitchen, just with the natural ambient light.
Oh, okay, great. And another thing now, if I wanted to keep them healthy, besides just using tap water or something like that, water them every once in a while, what about plant food that you normally use with house plants or something like that?
As long as you use a planting mix that has a slow release fertilizer in it, you should be fine. After about a year or so, you could do something like a compost tea or like a liquid organic plant food or something, but you have to watch the plants, and you only want to water them typically once a week. Don't water them like every day. Just water them once a week. That's going to be best for them.
Oh, well, thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you for calling.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.